gonna be so much fun. Welcome to my channel. My name's Anna. I wanted to compare, so I just got the Pat McGrath Celestial Nirvana palette. I finally gave in with the 40% off, and this is what it looks like. And I remember when I saw all the promo photos and everything thinking, I wonder how similar that is to Circo Loco, Natasha Denona Circo Loco. And I was like, oh, I should do a comparison video. And so this is what the Circo Loco looks like. And I will try to do an eye look, one eye with one and one with the other, and see if I can get something similar. But I was almost more interested in just comparing the two in general. So just looking at the palettes, I think ultimately they don't necessarily look that similar. You know, seeing them side by side. However, I did swatch them because I knew it would take a while. I did it beforehand. And this is what we've got. This is the Pat McGrath palette, and this is the Natasha Denona palette. And they're certainly not dupes for each other, but it's a very similar vibe. Now, the thing about the Pat McGrath palette is that you also get these 4 neutrals. So I only swatched the super colorful colors and was comparing those because the Circo Loco does not have these very beautiful sort of neutral. I guess you could argue that this could go in the pink family. I digress. The one thing too that I noticed while swatching, or one of the things that I noticed, was the Natasha Denona Circo Loco palette basically looks in the pan the way that it looked on my arm when I swatched it. Whereas the Pat McGrath palette, and you can see I sort of like, this seemed to go more with the purples. I thought it was more purple, but it actually looks a bit more like magenta-y. It's got a lot more warmth to it. Here, I'll show you. So that is this shade right here. And I think it just leaned a little more red than I was expecting. I wonder if I can hold this up and show you the two together. So, I mean, I guess it does. Yeah, no, it looks different. It looks like it has more red in it in the swatch. I also think that as far as the swatches went, the Natasha Denona did a lot better with the swatches. The mattes are a little bit patchier, and I mean, they're both good. Don't get me wrong. They're both, they swatched pretty good, but the Natasha Denona, and I have to say, this is one of my favorite palettes ever. That one did swatch slightly better. Okay, so some of the other differences, the Natasha Denona palette has 15 shades and I believe costs $129. And the Pat McGrath palette has 18 shades and costs $82. And we're talking full retail value. Last I looked, which was about a week ago, the Natasha Denona palette is still available on the Natasha Denona website. Natasha Denona historically doesn't have the super, super deep discounted sales except for Black Friday. Pat McGrath, on the other hand, very, very frequently has 30% off sales. As I'm filming this, there's a 40% off sale, but I think today's the last day. So probably by the time this is posted, she won't have that sale anymore. However, she does tend to have a lot deeper discounts on her sales. And I'm also not exactly sure, these are both limited edition, but the Circo Loco has been around for at least 1.5 years, and the Pat McGrath palette has been out for 3 months, I think. And I'm not sure if it'll be restocking. Sometimes Pat McGrath will bring things back. Anyways, these are some of the differences in these palettes. So the Pat McGrath palette is made in Italy, and no, oh my goodness. The Natasha Denona palette is made in Italy, and the Pat McGrath palette is also made in Italy. Okay, so they are both made in Italy. This one has 18-month shelf life, and Natasha Denona has 24-month shelf life. Okay, so those are what we're working with. Let's put these on the eyes, and I'm gonna go with the colorful looks because this is not going to compare to any of these shades. So I'm just going to like pretend those aren't there. They're sort of their own separate thing, which could be, you know, a positive thing about this palette. And I'm not necessarily deciding which one's better or worse in this video, just kind of comparing and contrasting the two palettes and seeing if I can get a similar look, honestly, or seeing, you know, what the difference is in an eye look, or what kind of eye looks I can get. So, yeah, I'll just get started. Let's see. I guess I will put Pat McGrath on this eye, Natasha Denona on this eye. And let's get started. So, and I will use different brushes for both as well. Oh, also, as I was swatching, the Pat McGrath palette was a lot messier, and the mattes were definitely more flaky. I did get a little bit of that with the Natasha Denona, but not as much. All right, so here, let's zoom in a little, actually, for this section. I don't want to zoom in too much because I'm going to be moving about a lot. All right, but I know my camera will sometimes focus on my mirror instead of my face. My eyes are primed with my Anastasia Beverly Hills eye primer and my Pat McGrath under eye powder, just so that you know, both eyes, same thing. So I'm going to do on the outer 2/3, this green shade from the Pat McGrath palette, high up in my crease. It's gonna get on my lid because of the shape of my eyes, that's fine. All right, now the other side. Actually, I'm gonna use the cream to powder shade here and see how that goes. Whoops. Oh, no, this one. It's a little bit less green than this, but this one's got shine in it. I'm gonna mix those two. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna mix those two shades for this, and we're just gonna see what happens. I haven't actually attempted this yet. You're getting the real-time experiment. Yeah, that definitely leans more on the blue side of things. Okay. So next, I want to use a little bit of, well, let's do the outer corner. So on the Pat McGrath side, these two shades mixed together. Whoops. These, I'm gonna mix them together because I think the Natasha Denona is a little bit more sort of a cooler purple, and this is a warmer purple. So I'm gonna try to cool it off with that navy. And yeah, that palette is a little bit messy. All right. So the navy's kind of taken over there. I've heard that these really deep sort of purples and blues are hard to formulate. They do look a little patchy. I sometimes just have trouble with patchiness on my eyes, especially where my hoods come over. So I don't know if that's my eye or the palette. It, you know, it could be a combination of the two, but that does look a little bit patchy to me, just for what it's worth. All right, so the other eye, okay, I think this is my best bet for a similar brush. I don't have identical brushes, which will also, you know, affect things, but this is all for fun. It's not for science, so I'm not too concerned about it. With the Natasha Denona palette, I'm gonna go into this shade first and see what happens. And I'll say even before I finish this, the Pat McGrath in the swatches looked to me to be slightly warmer overall, and this one seems slightly cooler overall. So Natasha Denona, slightly cooler. Pat McGrath, slightly warmer. I think that does look slightly less patchy. It's also not quite as deep. I wonder if I want to add a little bit of this deeper purple, even though it's shimmery, and see what happens. Let's do it. That does make the colors slightly more similar, but this one's definitely still more blue. I wonder if I can add some purple into that. A little bit. I have a feeling this is gonna be a lot of back and forth. What else are we working with here? I think this shade, wow, that was really descriptive. Okay, so this and this that are fairly similar, but different formulas. I think we'll use those next and see what happens on the lid. Okay, I'm not gonna do that on the lid. I'm actually gonna go here with that shade. It might make it more obvious that it's a different color, but I'm not super concerned about that actually. All right, so this right here. Oh, okay. I might have to clean that up a little. It's okay. And then for this side, I'm using this shade, and I might mix in a little bit of that. In fact, I am going to mix in a little bit of that. All right. And next, I'm going to finish off the lower lash line with those same brushes with, use this and this. The only thing is those both verge a little bit on green, but I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go with it because I think they're the most similar. And they'll match or blend in just fine with that last shade that we used. Okay. So with the Pat McGrath side, we're going into this right here. And on the Natasha Denona side, and I'm just wiping off those brushes on a towel, so there might be a little bit of that fuchsia in there, but this is this shade here. Okay. So this shade right here is one of my all-time favorite shades. In fact, these two shades are probably the reason that this is one of my favorite palettes. I love these. This is the Natasha Denona palette, and these two shades are glorious. And I was thinking, there's no way the Pat McGrath, palette is going to be able to match those. However, this shade is kind of amazing, and so is this one. They're different. They're different, but I do like them both. So we're going to, let's see, I think use the lavender, or no, let's do the blue here and the lavender at the top. Yeah, let's do that. So this is going to go in both my inner corner and my brow bone. We're gonna just combo that. All right, so on the Natasha Denona side, I'm using this. Definitely has a little more gleam, shine reflection. Okay, let's do a lid shade. And I think what I'm going to do is use this on the Pat McGrath side. And I'm going to use my pinky. This is the one I'm the most unsure of whether or not this is going to work. Because this one is quite a bit deeper shade. Than the Natasha Denona palette. And this is not applying, it's kind of sticky. It's okay, but I don't know. I'm not, ooh, it's pretty though. And on this side, I think I'm just going to use this to give it a little more pigment with this on top. And I'm just gonna use my finger for the matte as well and see what happens. Because that matte was a little bit brighter, had a little bit more pigment in it than the shimmer. So I thought maybe putting that down first might help a little with the color. But I think this eye is gonna look lighter in color. It's not that far off though, is it? And then this is the shimmer. Dang, that's pretty. Wow. I just sort of want to go in with that original green situation that I began with and just intensify it a little bit. Just a little. And maybe just bring it all the way in. I was trying to do sort of more on the outside, but just gonna bring it a little bit more. Just a little. And then I sort of brought that in a little further than I meant to. I don't like that. I'm just gonna kind of see what happens if I do this and try to wipe it off a little. Is that possible? Did that work? Oof, I don't know. I should probably have like a Q-tip or something smaller. Don't do what I just did. Just don't. I don't recommend it. I think part of the problem is I'm using a bigger brush on this side, slightly bigger. Ooh, yeah, that's a little bigger. I'm gonna have to get a smaller brush here if I don't want this to be terrible. One thing is that these are very different formulas because this is Natasha Denona's cream to powder. Yeah, and this is definitely looking more green. So enhancing that was a bad idea. If I use a little bit of the gold on the other side. Don't do this. We're gonna try to go into this shade. And just very lightly with like a super fluffy brush, bring in a little bit more yellow to that blue. Don't do this. I mean, do what you want. It's also making it like a lot shinier. Mistakes were made. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a Q-tip and just sort of try to clean this up a little because this got way too high. All right, and then to make things worse, I'm gonna try to do pink right here. We're doing a very colorful, artistic look today. So what I'm gonna do is this on the right side and a mixture of this and these two on that side. See what we can come up with. We're just gonna give it a little bit of color. Just kind of for fun. It's definitely looking a little cooler. Again, I think this is a cooler palette, and the Pat McGrath is a little warmer. So I need to deepen this up. And I'm just gonna use this matte because I think that this one was just not going on top of this very well. Okay, and then with the fluffy brushes, I'm gonna try to even that out a little bit, just blend it a bit on both sides. All right, I'm gonna finish my makeup and we'll see if this comes together. Okay, here's the final look. I think it came together actually decently well for being two completely different palettes. I think the main difference and the thing that stands out the most is the lid shade, and I don't think I could dupe that from one to the other. I'd have to use a different color there if I wanted to use, I mean, not that I would just use one palette if I wanted to do this look and have it be, you know, completely identical on each eye. However, I think they are similar. I mean, I think you can get a very similar vibe with both palettes as far as comparing them. So the formula, I think that in what I used, definitely more wow. With, like I said, these two shades in this palette are just stand out, knock 'em dead, like wow shades for me. They're a little bit more sparkly. There's a little bit more glow to it. This side, you know, this is a beautiful color, the blue on there. And it's got a shimmer to it, but it just doesn't have that ooh that I like from this side. As far as working with the shadows, I would say it was about the same. I definitely had fallout from the deepest shade on my outer corner on both of my cheeks, and I washed that off before doing the rest of my makeup. So that's that. The one thing that I'll say, I do like the fact that this palette, the Pat McGrath palette, is A, less expensive, and B, you have a whole neutral look in there. So you have these 4 shades, which I think are gorgeous. I think those are very pretty. I didn't use them today. I'm assuming they're going to work fine. I find that with Pat McGrath, you know, things are pretty consistent. Yeah, I might say that the formula on this is just like slightly better, but also this palette was expensive. Like this one was definitely more money. I guess another positive about this is you can pop out the shades and make your own palette with these magnetic, or switch them around. So the component is a little bit more interchangeable. This component is just like a cardboard, which I like that this is cardboard this year. It was plastic last year. Better for the environment, hopefully, maybe. Oh gosh, I don't want to go there. But the component, you can't actually take the pans out without totally destroying the palette. So I don't know. I guess that might be a con. Not so much for me. I don't tend to customize. Customize. Is that the word I was looking for? I don't know. Anyways, I do not think that these are like a direct dupe by any means or by any stretch of the imagination. And I do think, again, this is a warmer palette. This is a little bit cooler palette. It's funny because I usually tend to like warmer palettes, and this I'm sort of equal on as far as like how it turned out and how it looks. I did a bit of a messy job. I'm going to blame the fact that I couldn't see very well, but in the end, I think it looks fine. And with my fringe, I'm not particularly concerned about that. Anyways, oh, okay. I just, 2 last notes, like if you love makeup like I do, I just want to talk about this for a second. So this blush, because I wanted a really bright pink blush, because I wanted to wear this lipstick, and I'll tell you why, in a second, but I was like, ooh, I have this really nice pink blush. This thing. This was in, I think, the Bridgerton 2 launch. I hate this packaging. I hate it. It's huge. It takes up so much space. It's so stupid. But this blush formula is fantastic. And I particularly like these 2 shades. This one's a little deep for me, but this one that I'm wearing, it's so good for a certain thing, and it just looks so beautiful. Not what this video is about, but I just had to like talk about it for a second. And then just really quick story time, because this was so sweet. My husband's birthday is really near Christmas, and on his birthday, he asked me if I would go somewhere with him, to, I think it was Best Buy, which was plausible. It was like, okay, yeah, he might want to go to Best Buy, and he was like messing around with some cables. So I was assuming he needed a cable, but he needed to go to this certain spot across town that we never go to the Best Buy there. And I was like, okay, whatever, we'll go. And we get to a mall nearby, and when we had gotten in the car, there was this situation where I was like, no, the Best Buy is not by the mall. It's like a separate thing. So make sure you're putting the Best Buy in the, in the GPS. So when we got to the mall, I was like, oh gosh, do I tell him like that we're in the wrong spot? And he's like, okay, where's the Best Buy? And I was like, so it's like not here. And he's like, okay, so actually I lied. I wanted to come to the mall, and I figured we could go to Sephora and get you something. And I was like, it's your birthday. And he was like, I know, but it would make you happy, which would make me happy. So A, that was very sweet. And B, this is the lipstick that I got. It is MAC Candy Yum Yum, and I'd been eyeing it. Anyway, so I was kind of glad when I saw that this like bright look might look good with the bright pink lipstick. So that's what that is. Anywho, Happy New Year. This is probably posting somewhere in the beginning of January, and I hope that you're all doing well, and I wish you a wonderful 2023. Thank you so much for being here with me, going on this Natasha Denona Pat McGrath journey. 2 of my favorites. Yeah, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you'd subscribe to my channel, that would make my heart so happy, and I will keep making videos. All right, we'll see you in the next one. Bye.